Bougainville, Solomon Islands. November 1943. A dirt road cuts through dense jungle, the only supply route connecting American forces at the beach to infantry pushing inland against entrenched Japanese positions. Trucks need to move forward with ammunition, food, water, medical supplies. Without this road, the offensive stalls. But the road is a death trap. Japanese forces retreating through the jungle have turned every mile into a minefield, buried explosives under the dirt, tripwires strung between trees, pressure plates hidden beneath leaves, anti-tank mines positioned where vehicles must pass. Anti-personnel mines are scattered randomly to kill anyone who stops to investigate. The Japanese don't need to hold the ground. They just need to make every foot of it lethal. Force the Americans to crawl forward, checking every inch, losing men to hidden explosives. Slow the advance to a crawl. The American commanders need this road cleared, fast, but there's no machinery that can do it. No tanks equipped to detonate mines safely. No robots to send ahead, just men, with their hands, probing the dirt with bayonets and knives, feeling for tripwires, digging up explosives that could detonate at any moment. And the men doing this work? Primarily black soldiers assigned to engineer battalions. Units like the 96th Engineer Battalion, the 1883rd Engineer Aviation Battalion, the 93rd Engineer Regiment. Black combat engineers tasked with one of the most dangerous jobs in the Pacific War, clearing roads manually so supply trucks could get through. This is Bougainville, but it's also New Guinea, Saipan, Leyte, Okinawa. Across every island campaign in the Pacific, Japanese forces seeded roads with explosives, and black engineers cleared them by hand. Mile after mile, road after road, island after island. No protective equipment beyond a helmet. No remote detonation tools. Just engineers on their hands and knees, probing dirt, hoping they found the mine before it found them. This is the story of black combat engineers who cleared thousands of miles of roads in the Pacific by hand, under enemy fire, so their brothers in arms could advance. If you want World War II stories where the deadliest job nobody talks about was done by soldiers who got no recognition, subscribe now. We're documenting their forgotten stories. This is manual mine clearance in the Pacific, and it starts with understanding what black engineers faced the moment they landed on hostile islands. The Pacific War had a problem white commanders didn't want to acknowledge. They needed engineers desperately, but they didn't want black soldiers in combat roles. Engineers weren't support troops in the Pacific. They were essential combat forces. Every island invasion required engineers to clear beaches of obstacles, build roads through jungle, construct airfields on captured ground, destroy Japanese fortifications, and clear mines and booby traps from supply routes. Without engineers, invasions stalled. Infantry could capture ground, but couldn't hold it without supply lines. Aircraft couldn't operate without airfields. Tanks couldn't advance without roads. Engineers made everything else possible. The Army needed engineer battalions, lots of them. And by 1942, manpower shortages meant black soldiers would fill those roles, whether commanders liked it or not. Black engineer battalions were formed and trained stateside. The 96th Engineer Battalion, the 1883rd Engineer Aviation Battalion, the 93rd Engineer Regiment composed of multiple battalions. These units trained in combat engineering, demolitions, fortification construction, road building, mine warfare. The training was technical and demanding. Combat engineers needed to understand explosives, structural engineering, surveying, equipment operation, and field fortification. They had to work under fire, make quick decisions, and solve problems with limited resources. Black engineer battalions met every training standard. They qualified on their technical skills. They passed their field exercises. They were certified combat ready. But when deployment orders came, those units faced assignment to the Pacific rather than Europe. The official reasoning was that engineer work in the Pacific required construction skills in harsh tropical conditions. The real reasoning was simpler. The Pacific theater was less visible, farther from American public attention, and commanders there could assign black units to dangerous work without scrutiny. The 96th Engineer Battalion shipped to the South Pacific in 1943. The 1883rd followed. The 93rd Engineer Regiment deployed in segments across multiple Pacific operations. These units arrived expecting to build airfields and roads in rear areas once islands were secured. Instead, they found themselves assigned to forward combat zones. Building roads while fighting was still ongoing. Clearing mines while under enemy fire, working in conditions more dangerous than many infantry operations. The assignment pattern became clear. Black engineer battalions got the jobs white engineer units didn't want. The most dangerous roads to build, the most mine-heavy areas to clear, the positions closest to enemy lines. Mine clearance was the worst. Japanese defensive doctrine in the Pacific relied heavily on mines and booby traps. As American forces advanced across islands, retreating Japanese troops seeded supply routes with explosives, roads, trails, bridges. Anywhere American vehicles or troops had to pass became potential kill zones. Japanese mines came in varieties designed to maximize American casualties. Anti-tank mines buried in roads to destroy supply trucks. Anti-personnel mines scattered in areas where soldiers might take cover. Pressure-activated mines that detonated when stepped on. Tripwire-activated mines connected to grenades or artillery shells. Booby traps attached to objects soldiers might pick up. Abandoned equipment, souvenirs, even bodies. The goal wasn't just to kill Americans. It was to slow the advance. Force engineers to check every inch of ground. Create psychological terror where any step might be your last. Make supply routes so dangerous that trucks couldn't move, starving forward units of ammunition and food. American doctrine for mine clearance in 1943 to 44 was primitive. The standard method, engineers advance slowly, probing the ground ahead with bayonets or knives, feeling for buried objects. When something suspicious is found, carefully dig around it by hand. Identify the mine type, then either disarm it or detonate it in place with a small explosive charge. No metal detectors initially. The technology existed, but wasn't widely available in early Pacific campaigns. No mine-resistant vehicles, no remote-controlled detonation systems, just men on their hands and knees, searching dirt for objects designed to kill them. Black engineer battalions were assigned this work disproportionately. Unit records and after-action reports show black engineers clearing roads on Bougainville, New Guinea, Saipan, Leyte, Luzon, and Okinawa, often the first troops on roads after Japanese retreat, searching for mines before supply convoys could advance. The casualty rates were severe. Engineers clearing mines faced death from explosions, Japanese snipers targeting them while they worked, and exhaustion from working under extreme stress for extended periods. Exact casualty figures for specific units are incomplete in declassified records, but medical reports indicate black engineer units suffered disproportionately high casualties relative to their numbers. The men understood the danger. They'd been trained in mine warfare. They knew that one mistake, probing too hard, missing a tripwire, failing to identify a mine type correctly, meant death or crippling injury. They knew Japanese forces sometimes left mines with anti-handling devices that detonated if you tried to disarm them. They cleared the roads anyway, because infantry needed supplies, because wounded soldiers needed evacuation, because the advance couldn't continue with roads blocked by mines. Black engineers crawled forward, probing dirt, disarming explosives, and dying in numbers that never made it into official histories. November 1943. Bougainville, Solomon Islands. American forces have landed and established a beachhead. Infantry is pushing inland against Japanese positions. The 96th Engineer Battalion lands with orders. Build and maintain the supply road from the beach to forward positions. The road is barely a trail. Mud, jungle, roots. The engineers widen it, grade it, make it passable for trucks. As infantry advances, engineers follow, extending the road mile by mile. Then Japanese forces start retreating, and the road becomes a minefield. The pattern is consistent. Japanese troops withdraw, mine the road behind them, then establish new defensive positions and wait. American supply trucks hit mines. Engineers are called forward to clear the route. While they work, Japanese snipers and artillery target them. The 96th develops clearing procedures through trial and error. Small teams advance ahead of convoys, probing the road surface with bayonets. When they find something suspicious, they stop, dig carefully by hand, identify the mine, and either disarm it or blow it in place. The work is exhausting and terrifying. You're on your knees in mud, knowing the next thing you touch might kill you. Japanese snipers are watching, waiting for you to stay still long enough for a shot. Your hands are shaking from exhaustion and fear, but you have to be precise because one wrong move detonates the mine. One incident from Bougainville shows what these men faced. A section of road needed clearing. 5-man engineer team moved forward. The lead engineer probed carefully, found a mine, marked it, moved forward. Found another, marked it, found a third. As he was working on the third mine, Japanese sniper fire opened up. The team took cover. The lead engineer, name not recorded in available reports, stayed at the mine, continued working to disarm it while bullets hit trees around him. He disarmed it, then crawled back to cover. The team cleared 15 mines from that 200-yard section of road. 2 engineers were wounded by sniper fire, but the road stayed open. Supply trucks got through. That kind of courage was routine, not exceptional. Routine. Black engineers did this work daily, for months, with minimal recognition. The psychological toll was severe. Every day you went to work knowing you might step on a mine. Every road section might be your last. Sleep was difficult, nightmares about explosions. Hands shook constantly from stress. Some men developed what would later be called PTSD, but in 1943 was just considered battle fatigue or weakness. Engineers who broke under the stress were often disciplined rather than treated. The work had to continue. No replacements were available. So men kept working despite psychological trauma because the mission demanded it. By early 1944, the 96th had cleared miles of roads on Bougainville. The exact mileage isn't comprehensively documented, but unit records indicate extensive mine clearance operations over multiple months. They'd lost men, some to mines, some to sniper fire, some to accidents, some to disease. But the roads stayed open. Supplies flowed forward. The offensive continued, and the 96th received no unit citation, no special recognition, no publicity, just orders for the next island. By 1944, black engineer units across the Pacific had developed mine-clearing techniques through brutal experience. These weren't taught in stateside training. These were field-tested methods created by men who lived or died based on what worked. The probe. The basic tool was a bayonet or knife. You advance on your stomach or knees, probing the ground ahead at a shallow angle. Not straight down. That might trigger a pressure-activated mine. Shallow, careful, feeling for resistance. Metal, wood, anything that shouldn't be there. When you find something, stop. Don't pull the bayonet out quickly. It might be resting on a mine that will detonate when pressure is released. Leave it in place. Carefully brush away dirt around the probe point with your hands. Identify what you've found. If it's a mine, mark it with a flag or stick. Map its location, then decide, disarm it or blow it in place. Disarming was safer for the road. You could move the mine aside, keep the road surface intact, and trucks could pass immediately. But disarming meant more time with your hands on an explosive that might have anti-handling devices. Blowing it in place was faster, but damaged the road. You'd have to fill in the crater before trucks could pass. And the explosion might detonate other mines nearby or alert Japanese forces to your position. Black engineers developed protocols. If the road surface was critical and traffic needed to move immediately, disarm carefully. If time allowed and other routes existed, blow it in place from safe distance using detonation cord. The tripwire search. Mines weren't the only threat. Japanese forces strung tripwires between trees, connecting them to grenades, artillery shells, or buried explosives. Step on one, pull it, and the device detonates. Engineers searching for tripwires moved even slower than mine clearing. You couldn't see the wires. They were thin, often camouflaged with leaves or mud. You had to feel ahead with sticks, moving them back and forth in front of you like a blind man's cane, hoping to catch a wire before your body did. When you found a wire, you followed it carefully to both ends. One end, the trigger. Other end, the explosive. Then you'd cut the wire carefully, disarm the device, and mark the location. The booby trap sweep. Japanese forces were creative with booby traps. Engineers learned to suspect everything. A helmet lying in the road might be attached to a mine underneath. An abandoned rifle might have a grenade taped to it with a wire attached. A dead Japanese soldier might have explosives under the body. Engineers learned to approach nothing directly. Use a long stick or rope to move objects from distance. If something looked too convenient, a canteen sitting in the middle of a road, a weapon leaning against a tree, assume it's trapped and treat it as an explosive device. The tools evolved. Early in the war, engineers had bayonets and their hands. By 1944, some units had portable metal detectors, bulky, unreliable, but better than nothing. The detectors could locate metal mines but missed wooden box mines Japanese forces used, and they didn't detect tripwires or booby traps. Some engineers fabricated their own tools, long poles with hooks for pulling suspicious objects from distance, grappling hooks on ropes for moving debris without getting close, mirrors on sticks for looking around corners or under objects without exposing yourself. The human cost was constant. Every technique, every tool, every protocol was developed because engineers before you died learning what didn't work. You improved methods because you saw your friends blown apart by mistakes. If you're learning about World War II jobs where soldiers faced death daily from invisible threats and got no recognition for keeping supply lines open, subscribe now. We're documenting the forgotten stories of this war. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The 1883rd Engineer Aviation Battalion worked on Saipan in 1944, clearing roads for the airfield construction sites. Japanese defenders had booby-trapped everything before retreating to inland positions. The 1883rd cleared mines for weeks, losing men regularly, to create safe routes for heavy equipment to reach construction areas. One section of road, half a mile long, took 4 days to clear. 27 mines, 15 booby traps, 3 engineers killed, 2 wounded. But the road opened. Bulldozers got through. Airfields were built. B-29s flew from those airfields to bomb Japan. The 1883rd received no special recognition. The bombers got the credit for winning the war. The engineers who made those runways possible were footnotes in reports. The 93rd Engineer Regiment cleared roads across multiple Philippine islands during the Liberation Campaign in 1944-45. Leyte, Luzon. Every island had the same pattern. Japanese retreat, mine the roads, force engineers to clear them under fire. On Luzon, the 93rd cleared a mountain road that was the only supply route to forward positions. The road wound through jungle with cliffs on one side, steep drops on the other. No room to maneuver, no alternative routes, one lane, and Japanese forces had mined it thoroughly. The 93rd sent teams forward in sections, clear 50 yards, bring up trucks, clear another 50 yards, repeat, mile after mile, taking casualties, but keeping the road open. The work was never finished. You'd clear a road, move forward to the next section, and hear that Japanese infiltrators had remined the road behind you at night. You'd have to go back and clear it again. Engineers developed night security protocols. After clearing a road during the day, post guards at intervals along it through the night. Watch for Japanese soldiers trying to lay new mines. In the morning, sweep the road again before letting traffic through because even with guards, infiltrators sometimes got through. The psychological toll compounded. You never felt safe. Roads you'd cleared yesterday might be mined again today. Ground you'd walked on this morning might have a mine by afternoon. Trust nothing. Suspect everything. Stay alert constantly or die. Engineers who survived these operations often had permanent hand tremors, nightmares about explosions, and extreme startle responses to loud noises. But in 1944-45, that was just how engineers were. Nobody called it trauma, nobody provided treatment. You finished your deployment and went home, and if you couldn't stop shaking, that was your problem. April 1945, Okinawa. The largest amphibious assault in the Pacific War. and the deadliest for engineers. Japanese defenders on Okinawa had months to prepare. They'd learned from previous islands. They knew American tactics. They knew engineers would clear roads after landings. So they created the most elaborate mine and booby trap defenses of the entire war. Black engineer units landed with assault waves. The 96th Engineer Battalion was there. Elements of the 93rd Engineer Regiment, the 1,883rd Engineers. Their job, clear roads from beaches inland so supplies could flow to frontline units. Okinawa's terrain was a nightmare. Southern part of the island was densely populated with towns and villages. Northern part was rugged mountains and jungle. Japanese forces had mined everything: roads, fields, buildings, trails, beaches. If Americans needed to use it, it was probably mined. The Japanese also used civilians. They forced Okinawan civilians to help construct fortifications and lay mines, then left them behind when retreating. American engineers advancing into villages encountered terrified civilians who sometimes didn't know where mines had been placed. Engineers had to clear areas while trying to protect civilians who might inadvertently trigger explosives. The mine density on Okinawa exceeded anything engineers had seen. One section of road near Naha, less than a mile long, had 40 mines. Engineers spent 3 days clearing it. 2 killed, 4 wounded. But the road opened. Engineers developed new tactics for Okinawa's density. Instead of single probing teams, they used multiple teams working in parallel. One team would probe a section, mark mines. Second team would follow, disarming or detonating. Third team would fill craters and make road passable. Assembly line clearing. This was faster but more dangerous. More men exposed to potential explosions. But speed mattered. The Okinawa campaign was grinding toward a horrific climax, and supplies had to flow constantly. Japanese forces added a new threat: suicide bombers targeting engineers. Soldiers would strap explosives to themselves and charge engineer teams working on roads. Engineers had to post security while working. Some men cleared mines, others watched for attacks. The 96th lost its commander on Okinawa. Major, name not definitively recorded in available declassified documents, was supervising mine-clearing operations when Japanese artillery targeted the position. He was killed along with 3 other engineers. The battalion continued working. No pause for mourning. The road had to open. By June 1945, when organized Japanese resistance ended, black engineer units had cleared hundreds of miles of roads on Okinawa. The exact mileage isn't comprehensively documented, but post-battle reports indicate extensive engineer operations maintaining supply routes under combat conditions. The casualties were severe. The 96th Engineer Battalion suffered approximately 30% casualties on Okinawa, killed, wounded, or incapacitated by stress. The exact figures vary across available records, but casualty rates for engineer units on Okinawa consistently exceeded infantry rates in some periods because engineers worked in the most heavily mined areas. And when the island was secured, when the campaign ended, black engineer units received no special recognition. Infantry units got citations for capturing positions. Tank units got publicity for destroying enemy armor. Engineers who'd cleared the roads that made everything else possible got a paragraph in after-action reports. Okinawa was the last major campaign of the Pacific War. In August 1945, atomic bombs fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrendered. The war ended. Black engineer units who'd spent years clearing mines, building roads, and dying in numbers nobody counted were sent home. No parades, no headlines, no medals. Discharge papers and bus tickets back to segregated America where they couldn't talk about their service because most of it was classified or simply ignored. August 1945. The war ended. Black engineer battalions that had spent 3 years clearing mines in the Pacific returned home. They expected recognition, unit citations, acknowledgement that they'd done some of the most dangerous work in the war. None came. The Army's official position was that engineer work was support, not combat. Never mind that engineers worked under fire, took casualties, and made every combat operation possible. Support troops didn't get combat decorations. Black engineer casualties were absorbed into broader statistics. Official records show total engineer casualties, but don't consistently break down by race or specific unit. The result? Black engineers who died clearing mines on Bougainville, Saipan, Okinawa are listed in general casualty figures with no detail about how they died or what they were doing. Post-war histories focused on infantry and armor. Engineers were mentioned briefly, if at all. Black engineers were invisible. The narrative was that black troops served primarily in support roles and saw limited combat. The reality, that black engineers faced daily combat conditions, clearing mines and building roads under fire, didn't fit that narrative. The pattern is familiar. Recognizing black engineers' combat role would contradict arguments for continued segregation. If black soldiers could handle one of the most technically demanding and dangerous jobs in the military, it undermined claims they couldn't handle other combat roles. Easier to minimize the story. File it under support operations. Don't mention casualty rates. Don't discuss the daily terror of mine clearing. Let it fade from memory. The soldiers knew what they'd done. They'd cleared thousands of miles of roads. They'd disarmed thousands of mines. They'd worked under sniper fire, artillery bombardment, and constant threat of hidden explosives. They'd lost brothers to mines, watched friends blown apart, lived with nightmares. But the nation gave them discharge papers and silence. Many struggled with what we now call PTSD, tremors, nightmares, hypervigilance. In 1945, that wasn't recognized as a service-related condition. You dealt with it privately or you didn't deal with it. Some used the GI Bill, facing discrimination in education and housing. Some returned to pre-war jobs with limited opportunities. Some never recovered psychologically from years of working with explosives that could kill them any second. For decades, black engineers' Pacific service remained obscure, not taught in military academies as examples of combat engineering under fire, not featured in documentaries about the Pacific War, not commemorated at memorials, just forgotten. Then gradually, historians researching black military service found unit records. After-action reports documenting mine-clearing operations, casualty lists showing engineer losses, veteran accounts describing the terror of manual mine clearance. What emerged? Black engineer units had performed critical combat operations throughout the Pacific War. They'd worked in conditions as dangerous as any infantry faced. They'd enabled every major campaign through their road clearing and construction work. And they'd been erased from historical memory. Modern recognition is beginning. Military historians now acknowledge the combat role of Pacific theater engineers. Museums include black engineer units in exhibits. Educational materials teach about their contributions. But recognition came too late. The engineers who cleared roads by hand, who probed dirt for mines every day for years, who lived with constant fear, most died never seeing acknowledgement of what they'd done. The lessons are clear. Combat isn't just infantry assaults. Engineers clearing mines faced death as certainly as soldiers storming beaches. Technical work under fire is combat, period. Institutional racism doesn't just deny opportunity, it erases achievement. Black engineers' service was documented in unit records. It was there all along. But nobody looked, or if they looked, they didn't consider it worth highlighting. And the human cost of dangerous work falls heaviest on those with least power to demand recognition. Black engineers cleared mines because someone had to, and they were the soldiers commanders considered most expendable. Japanese forces booby-trapped every road in the Pacific. Black engineers cleared those mines by hand, mile after mile, island after island, under fire, with no protective equipment beyond helmets, losing men constantly, making every American advance possible. They did work so dangerous that describing it sounds like exaggeration. But it's not. It's documented. It happened. And for 60 years, almost nobody knew. The engineers who crawled through minefields so supply trucks could pass deserve better than footnotes. They deserve to be remembered as combat soldiers who faced invisible enemy every day and kept fighting despite terror. Black combat engineers cleared the roads. We're clearing the historical record so their story stays visible. If you want more stories like this, subscribe now. And comment where you're watching from and which overlooked unit we should document next. They held the line against mines. We're holding the line on their memory.